Hi, everyone. Welcome to another discussion of The Judging Eye. This is the first book of the Aspect Emperor series by R. Scott Baker. Steve's laughing because I forget what book every time.
Well, no, it's hard to remember. Is it the fourth book in the second apocalypse, or is it the first book in the Aspect Emperor?
Right? Yes. And they both start with the first sound, so I don't know which one to say after I start. so so anyway, this is also the fourth book, like Steve said, of the second apocalypse series. We are reading these books about 100 pages every week, and we talk about them here in this discussion group and on the forum on patechewing.com. If you'd like to read along with us, consider checking out the Patechewing forum, either here or in the forum itself. You can chat with us about the book. We'd love to hear from you. Today's discussion is for chapters, oh, I forget, but the last three chapters of the Judgment. These are the chapters where we learn that hearts and eyes go well together only in poetry. Um, with
God.
me, I have the usual group of friends. Steve, would you like to start us off with introductions?
Sure, I'm Steve, and you can catch me, like as Varsha said, on Page Train, and I'll throw it to Dan.
Yeah, I'm Dan. I've read this series a bunch of times, and that's it.
I'm Carl, first time reader, and so excited to talk about Hearts and Eyes. I guess I blocked that out from my memory until you mentioned that, Varsha, because it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my God, that was a thing.
I read it
Oh,
last night. It gave me nightmares. Only fair that I continue the nightmare
That's fair.
cycle here.
Yeah. And why do you think that happened? Like, why specifically an eye in a heart? And how did Akemian know?
Because of what the guy said. I mean, did he know, or did he just know that something was up and he needed to look for it?
Oh. But it was very specific. It's like, give him his heart, right?
Because the dude said something about the heart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he specifically said, like, because you wouldn't normally like kill someone and then say, like, let me see his heart. That'd be a reason, but
And
is
he's
there a
not
reason?
a Acamian that we know of.
I have no idea. I don't know what was going on there. Yeah, it definitely seemed like Akamian kind of knew what was up, but we didn't get answers per se. The whole thing was, I mean, just phenomenal. This maybe was my favorite section, stretch, sequence of any of the books so far. It was everything I wanted it to be and more. I think they definitely actually gave us more than I expected. Very, you really, I think honestly, I felt the slog in a way I had not felt the slog before. And in this case, obviously, I'm not referring to it, the slog as a bad thing or like a Wheel of Time reference, right? But the slog, as they call their horrible journey.
Since we started reading this, I've been waiting for this section just because when we first started reading, you had mentioned the Tolkien kind of influences and references, and I've been waiting for this since we started reading the series.
We got everything we wanted, basically, even if we didn't get it like we expected, right? Like probably the farthest we got from, kind of a prediction was the dragon. In this case, the dragon was dead, but we still got a dragon in a sense, right? And then we did get the Bashrog. And in fact, we didn't just get one, we got multiple Bashrog. And then we got, Wraith King possession nonsense, which was horrifying and awesome. And if I had one criticism of this entire section, it's that there were times where I had no idea what the hell was going on. I mean, it's written, you're meant to, like, it's clearly you're meant to feel like you're in the chaos and confused, like a lot of the characters. But there were times where I felt like maybe it went a little too far, and like where I would read like a whole page and like go back and read it, and I still would have no idea. I'm like, I don't know what just happened here. I guess the other thing is that I am shocked. Like it honestly, by the end of the book, I laughed at the very, like, I think it's like the last line, or it's the last real chapter, and the last line, that cleric walks out. He is truly unkillable. Like, I found that it started out, it was like, this is so cool. This dude is so badass. And by the end, I mean, he's still cool and he's really badass, but I honestly found it hilarious that he just kept disappearing. And Mimar kept being like, oh my God, he's dead. I can't believe we finally lost him. Like, she like has this thought multiple times and then he appears again, including at the end. I was like, oh man, he finally died there at the end with the possession and whatever magic, darkness bullshit went on. And he walks out literally at the end. I imagine that was not meant to be funny, but I did find it a little funny. That said, I love Cleric. I'm sure there's more going on with him. I don't know what it is. It's strange that his name is not known, if that is his name in Karial.
It just pictured him walking out at the end, be like, "Hey, you guys got some Advil?" Like, I've been through some shit, but something. Like what just happened? But I was curious from all of you, because it struck me more this time, I think, than last time, that the writing style seems a lot different than the first trilogy. It feels almost at times too wordy. I think it's like it goes on a little bit too long for, like Carl, like you mentioned. Sometimes I think it goes on for a little bit too long, and I think it could have been written in like a paragraph, and it's like more of a page. But I wanted to see what everyone's thoughts were, because there is definitely a difference in writing style from the first series to this one. And we did, I think someone mentioned on the forum, I apologize, I forget who it was, mentioned that Bakker did take some feedback from the first trilogy and changed the style from the first trilogy kind of to, he took the feedback and tried to apply it. But I wanted to hear everyone's thoughts on that and just in general, the style.
I think overall I'll actually like this more. I find it very, like, I feel like just like on a word by word basis, he's a better, like, you can see he's a better prose writer. Like, his prose feels more evocative. It has like, it's maybe not necessarily as like quotable as the first trilogy was, at least so far. But that may also just be because like it's almost every line there's something really powerful. That's excuse me, hiccups. Wow, horrible time. That said, I do agree with you that there are times where I feel like maybe things could have been trimmed down, or like the thing that really occurs to me about the prose that I think bothered me a bit were the sections where we just had like one line and then a scene break and then one line and a scene, like I'm literally right now, the wind is gone, scene break, a light hangs in a fog, scene break, ringing like blood in the ears, and then we get a little longer, and I just like didn't feel like, I don't know, that it needed to be written that way. It just kind of hurt the flow, and again kind of felt chaotic, but not in a way that, like, I don't know. Overall I would say I actually like this style more, but there are times where it does feel like it's maybe a little overwrought. What are you thinking, Varsha?
Sorry, I was in the middle of eating a chip. But what was I saying? Yeah, I was actually surprised. I read an interview by R. Scott Bakker, and I think the comment that you referenced as well, Steve, that this series has less introspection, apparently, according to the readers and the author himself. And I was surprised by that, because I felt like there was a lot more of it in this, or maybe more character focused internalization, perhaps. I guess Akamian's pretty much the same, except he's somehow grown more eloquent and thinks more beautifully, I guess, as he has aged. That's my takeaway from Akamian. But Sorville and the others, they feel different. I feel like there's more internal monologues and stuff, but I guess the difference might be that the monologuing is towards what serves to expand the story, or like serves towards moving things forward, apparently. I don't know that I could tell the difference. It's my inability to tell the difference. But and I guess in the first book, this is, I think I'm misquoting Bakker, but there's a lot of monologuing without moving the plot forward. I think that's probably what he said. But but overall, I felt like this one has more of it, and I love it. I really enjoy the things that they are thinking to themselves. So, and the descriptions are a lot more beautiful. So I don't know if I feel like there is too much of it, but it does feel different, but in ways that I like more. I like the writing more. I think the descriptions are a lot more beautiful. I think when we are in characters' heads, things sound a lot prettier, and like the thoughts feel a lot deeper. I think with Kelhis, it's always like, yeah, I like what he's saying, but I don't like why he's saying it. But with Akamian and Sorvi, when you agree with them, or even when you disagree with them, or like don't feel quite as cynically as they do, you understand where they're coming from, and I feel like maybe makes a lot of difference. Yeah, I think the person on the forum, the comment on the forum said something to the effect that not having Kellis POVs helped in this book. So I I guess that would be my reason why, if at all. Like I can't say that not getting the Kellis POV is making things better for me, but I would imagine that this might be why, because it's hard when you agree with Kellis. You have to.
I do think that it's probably maybe a little less introspective, but I think it's almost like counterbalanced by the fact that I think there's more description, like of like physical things, like the environments and things like that. I remember sometimes thinking that like, oh, I wished this scene was maybe described a little more, or I had maybe a little more feel for the geography or something. And some of the scenes in Prince of Nothing, not a lot. Like generally, he did a good job, but I definitely feel like everything is described in like quite vivid detail in the judging eye so far, and I enjoy it overall. There was only one section, I think, that really felt too long for me in this series of chapters. I just remember like it kind of felt like we were describing the same things over and over again within Silaugus, and I just kind of felt like I got the idea. Like it stopped being like really atmospheric and started just being like, okay, like I get like Akamian is seeing how dark and like old everything is. I'm ready to move on. But I mean, overall, I loved it. I mean, like I said, I think this was maybe my favorite stretch of chapters. Just so evocative and tense, like just like really tense. I read it all in one go. I'm not gonna lie. Like a week ago, I a little less than. I like just like sat down and started reading. I was thinking I was just gonna read one chapter, and I just read through the whole rest of the book. It was phenomenal. I was actually really mad when I came to the end of the Silaugus chapter and I had to go to the other one, and it ended up being good too. But I was just like, oh my god, like I want to know what's going on.
It's a bit different, yeah.
I'm deep in the slog. I need the slog. And oh man, it was so good. It didn't disappoint. It was just phenomenal from a plot perspective, but also, I think there's a lot of interesting character work done there, right? Like down to Mimara really practicing magic for the first time, and Akamian kind of like giving in a sense, and him also stepping up, and then wanting to just be left to die, and then there was so much good stuff, and all that we learned about
I guess talking about the prose a second again, I was wondering, I don't know if you read it too, Carl, but Varsha, do you think there is that? I was thinking there's a bit of similarity with China Mieville, I think, how it's written, like the feeling that, I don't know, these like very detailed, very, how do you say, a bit decadent descriptions, and it feels like very dirty, very extremely evocative. I don't know. Like, to me, it felt a bit like that.
I could see what you mean. Yeah, the sweeping descriptions of the city Baslag. Whenever we started a chapter in a different part of city, we'd get all these sweeping descriptions of the town, right, in Burrito Street Station. I can see that comparison. I didn't think of it, but that makes sense. The one it reminded me of though was George R.R. Martin, because he describes palaces and like the internal structures of buildings a lot. And this reminded me of that level of detail in these descriptions. I don't know if it was just me, because I don't tend to like, I get random pictures sometimes when I read, but mostly there's not a picture playing in my head when I'm reading. So descriptions are hard for me to read, just like with action scenes. I I have no idea what's going on. It's all just pretty words strung together for the most part. So I have to slow down and force myself to picture things. And so I feel like the beginning of the Silaujas section was really slow for me, almost to the point where I wanted to like just move on, start doing other things. I didn't dislike it. It was just that I was enjoying it, but I like this. I can't keep reading this for as long as we have.
Right. It's a lot. I mean, it is pages of just like describing the halls and the tombs and the city, the big bridge they walk over and things like that.
It can be a bit heavy, right?
And I mean, I also think that I slowed down, because I mean, I'm with you, Varsha, that like oftentimes I kind of just like picture something and that's kind of what I imagine. I have to really like put an effort to kind of try to visualize what's actually like being written beyond just like a detail here and there. It's true with characters. I think it's true with locations, certainly. But I don't know. I enjoyed it overall. Like occasionally there were times I was kind of struggling to picture what was written, but I think even given that atmospherically, like, the tone, the feeling it evoked, I found very affecting and gripping, and definitely added to the experience for me.
Yeah, but if you don't like this style, you would hate this. Like it feels
Right.
to me very, how to say, indulgent in its own prose, I guess. So if you don't like how he wrote a lot of descriptions or thoughts in the first series, you would hate this, I feel.
It felt very gothic to me. I mean, now that we're kind of talking about it, it definitely gave me, in that, it is kind of overwrought and indulgent, but like, very atmospheric, very evocative, huge for tone, and creating, I think, a sense of dread. If you're willing to let yourself kind of get swept up in it, right?
Yeah.
If it, just rubs you the wrong way, then yeah, it's not going to be as effective.
But it's definitely heavy. Like you can't just read it. Just sometimes I read the book and I'm just like running through a page, like reading one line and sort of skipping one line and next line almost. But you can't really do it.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. Shout out to Sean on the forum, because he did mention, he was the poster who mentioned the writing style change, and he was making a conscious effort to have less inner philosophizing and more stuff happening on the page. And then he talks about some other spoilers, but yeah, I think those quiet moments there of the skin eaters and them kind of having the back and forth, and that was meant to build a sense of dread and a sense of anticipation and tension. And sometimes it worked, and sometimes it's like, okay, that, like, I get it. Let's move on.
I feel that.
But overall, I did think the descriptions were phenomenal. I think they were really beautiful, and like, you could, if you wanted to, just sit with that and enjoy how pretty everything is. Like, it's not describing pretty things, but I think it's using really beautiful language to describe everything around it. And that I really like. I think it has echoes of some things from, I remember mostly the first book, I think, because we got a description of the palace in the Imperial Palace, if I remember correctly, the Sirius's palace, and some other structures that I think, I feel like it's really good at describing architecture, and you could sit with it if you were so interested to, and just enjoy.
I think something I remember is, I don't know, like one description that really stuck with me was when he was describing like Mimara. They were like running and he was getting super, like, extremely tired, and I think she describes like she felt like she was like an earthen jug with spoiled milk inside, sloshing inside. And then like, if I think about it, it makes no sense. But like the emotions that it evokes,
Yeah.
evokes the right emotion, even if the image doesn't really make it. It's like an analogy doesn't make sense, but
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think it might have been the same description that you referred there, Dan, or maybe it was a different one, but I had the exact same thought that this doesn't make sense, but I love how he's put it.
yes. And it gives you, I don't know, it gives you that feeling, which is hard to, I don't know, it's hard to describe what feeling it is, but I like those descriptions, which are extremely evocative without being precisely descriptive, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Or when it says I don't know, like the query tastes like ash and honey, right? It's sort of like, I don't know, it gives you that feeling. Like it probably doesn't taste like ash and honey, but it gives you that feeling of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, definitely. It's not literal, and it's not, these aren't perfect metaphors, but it's about the tone they establish, the feeling, exactly. And I do think it's very effective at that. Ash and honey, exactly. It probably doesn't literally taste like that, but you understand exactly what it's going for, and I actually think that's a great example because it's relatively concise as far as a metaphor goes and as a description, but it is so powerful. You understand the feeling, right? That otherwise could take a paragraph to describe, and that sometimes he does take a paragraph or two or five to describe. But that was a great one. Yeah.
But sometimes it makes things a bit confusing because, like you said before, what's happening here? It's like a sentence, and you're sort of wondering what is happening here, right? There's a couple of passages where, you're not sure. It's confused, claustrophobic. Everyone is tired, and a bunch of descriptions. You're not sure exactly what's going on. But it also makes it in general, for this series, a lot of people discussing things.
Yeah.
It's oh, what did he mean? Did he mean something from that? Am I missing something? Right?
Absolutely.
Because even the descriptions, there's a lot of the architecture I was saying before. You can get a lot of the character of the non-men and the people and how they think, right, from the architecture. Just like Akemian was talking about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the other thing that these descriptions do is really lay out the depth of history of the Norman. I think it did a phenomenal job of talking about they can't see paint, so they did all these engravings, and I think it's usually Mimara that has these thoughts about the amount of effort that went into that, and we find out later just who put that effort in, and so I think it also serves to lay on these layers, if you will. Sorry about that sentence construction. But it really serves to build these layers to have that effect that it does in the end when we see that final topoi where, I don't know, hell comes to be.
I guess the non-men were not the good guys after all.
No. You feel, and it's interesting because I don't know, at the end of the appendix reading, I felt sorry for them. They had their whole people destroyed, they lost their women and children and so on. And they have been apparently treating humans like animals. Like you wouldn't treating animals like that is bad, and you're and let's not contest degrees of cruelty there, I guess. But I think it's terrible. But speaking of, may I make a segue? Did you guys have? Okay. So there were a couple of hints there, or I guess points of things that looked interesting to me. I will call those out. One, the fact that the non-men felt like treated humans like children or like animals, not children, like animals, that they thought themselves so much higher in consciousness somehow than humans. And the other aspect was when Claric was talking or saying something, Akamian has this thought that it reminded him of Kellis. So where I'm going with this is, are Dunian some sort of like mixed breed, non-men, human something? Are those hints to tell us that the non-men are somehow involved in the Dunian line?
That's interesting.
I mean, we do know that it is possible, but really hard to have non-men and human children, right?
Hmm.
Supposedly, Kellis is descended through the Anasurimbor line. Like Aragorn, right? Who is descended from elves.
Even say that's why they live longer, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think that's an interesting theory.
But if he's not Anasurimbor, though, if he's a son of Siswada, then he
right.
would.
I totally. I mean, who knows with his mom what that bloodline is? They seemingly don't care to record it. But I do. I mean, I'm very much of that belief. That's just too dramatically rich, and yeah, that just fits thematically too. I would be shocked if he is not Seswatha's son, the now Kaidi, I mean, and so therefore, Kellis is only an Anasurian-born name. Which, I mean, I think in modern values we'd be like, okay, he's an Anasurian-born, like that's what matters, right? But for their bloodline obsessed culture, that is a meaningful difference.
It's up to think that non-men have lived so long that when they look at humans, they think of them as they're only here for really a short period of time. So over the course of generations and generations, they have a different view of kind of value, I guess. And I'm not defending the non-men, but kind of the way that they view life is very different from the way that we do, because we view life as, or the people in this world view it as, well, not all of them view it as something important, but they see humans as almost like pets or like something temporary. Like they're going to come and go, and non-men are still going to be here. So they don't really put a lot of value in people because they're just they're disposable. But really quickly, don't want to derail the conversation, but both of our first-time readers will spoil this week. And I want to just remind everyone, if you're out there, haven't read the series yet, do not Google anything. Do not read the synopsis of any book. Do not skip to the end of the book, Varsha, and read the last line. Just be careful.
Yeah, bad Varsha.
But I will also say that no matter, there's so much that if you feel like you're like the whole thing is ruined, it's not. There's so much that happens. So if you have been spoiled, there's so much that you don't know. I can guarantee you. So
definitely don't go to Reddit. That's where I went wrong. I went looking for why the Aspect Emperor, any insight into what went on with the editor, losing the editor and everything. That was my mistake. People willy-nilly on threads where also the reader, the person or the original poster who, started the thread was just asking a basic question, and people just like casually. What I'm getting at is the moderation is horrible on the Bakker subreddit. And no offense to the people moderating, like I'm sure they're lovely people, but like they do not spoiler tag. It was bad. I walked right into a major in-game spoiler, which I'm still excited by everything, but it did. That is a thing that happened. So definitely avoid Reddit at all costs.
There's a really good community. There's a really nice community, like really supportive, really great group of people there. But I think they all assume that everyone's read it.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's I think kind of the thing. But really great group of people once you've read the series.
Everyone that I saw was really helpful and nice, and it wasn't the majority of people. Also, I want to say the majority of people followed it, but if you scroll down far enough, you find someone who just casually throws out in-game spoilers, and that happens. It's the internet. I knew what I was getting into, and unfortunately, I did not heed my better judgment.
And I feel like they also get into it, because they have discussions upon discussions of the meanings of things, and it gets very, it's like, what is actually said in which part of what book? Yeah. They get very confused.
It blurs together. I can understand it too, especially when you have this book does not, Syllogus is very climactic, but I do feel like things also kind of just end otherwise, with the other storylines. It felt kind of abrupt. It didn't feel like the others necessarily reached a climax. So I could easily see, these books in particular blurring together. I didn't feel like that was as much of an issue in Prince of Nothing. But here I was like, oh, okay, so this is where we're ending, Sorwheel storyline and Esmonets and things like that. So yeah,
I'm trying to think how the other two ends, but I don't remember if they end on cliffhangers or any particularly special part. I don't remember, but I don't
as it were. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit different, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I don't know. Lately, I always thought this is how series read, right? That there are many threads that are not closed. It's a several book long series, and you get to things when you get to things. Whatever each book lays out some questions, answers, some opens up some more, and so on. But I feel like lately I've seen criticism of some series that they did not tell complete stories in the first book or second book or whichever book it is. So this almost feels, in light of that, this almost feels brave of Bakker to do. To even the first series, for that matter, didn't feel like a complete story. Like it was a setup for something else. It did feel like that. So yeah, it's just interesting. Just an observation.
I will never understand the people who can read those first 3 books and be like, yeah, I got a full story. I'm done. I don't need to know anything. Like to me, it was reading that first trilogy is like reading, a lot of, like, there was an arc that came to that finished. So it's certainly like it does function in that way, but there was just so much left, unanswered, so much left to explore with the characters that I'm blown away. I will never understand. I've said it before. I'll never understand how this quadrilogy didn't sell well, considering the first trilogy did sell well. Apparently, I just can't imagine stopping at the 1,000-fold.
From what I heard, I don't know. My impression was that a lot of people pushed through to try to get to the end, but didn't like it that much, and pushed through to the end of the first series, hoping to find something, or maybe could conclude anything would make them interested, but they weren't able to. I feel, and then only the people which were really into went on to the second part. Because I've heard a lot of people just they try to they don't like it for many reasons. I can see why they wouldn't like it.
Right.
And they try to push through like the first 3 books, I guess. But if you're not gonna like it in 3 books, you're not gonna like the next 4 books.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's
why. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of.
No, I mean, I agree with that. I think that makes sense. I'll admit, like, I can't imagine reading through 3 books and not liking the 3 books at that point. Like, I would have, if I didn't like the series, definitely would have quit in The Warrior Prophet.
Probably.
Just because I can't, like, I normally would give books, I sometimes give like sequels a chance, but like, no way I'm going beyond 2 books if I don't like the series or like the tone, the vibe, the characters, whatever it is. But I guess I respect people and I'm glad they gave Bakker their money, so that he got to write these latter 4 books, because I'm greatly enjoying this series.
Yeah, I guess going back to the non-men, if we're done.
Yes,
it's like Steve was saying. I think because the non-men civilization was at its apex when humans were barely more than nomads. And with a pastoral life, they had like built nothing, created nothing. They didn't know magic, pretty much. They were like, I don't know, like if we went to 2000 BC or something right now. So yeah, and they literally enslaved the humans that lived in their land. Plus, like you said, they lived forever. I guess they didn't live forever at the time, but they reached such grandiose heights that the humans haven't even reached in the next 2,000 years. So, but it is a nice counterpart to, again, talking about Tolkien. Like in Tolkien, the elves you have elves which are mortal and they're perfect, they're beautiful, they compose poetry and all those things. Here we have like very immortal, but this immortality drives him crazy.
The only thing I would push back on there is that the elves are definitely not perfect in Tolkien, particularly in the Silmarillion. They cause a lot of problems.
Yes, I agree.
But that said, there is a nobility to the elves that definitely does not exist with the non-men. You know, I think if you go in expecting them to be like the elves, you will be quite shocked.
Yeah.
I felt like the appendices kind of set me up for what to expect with them, I'll be honest. At the end of the Thousandfold Thought, just knowing I was like, okay, so they're like enslaving people, and they also started, you know, I made a big fuss out of being like, the Incaroi didn't start the war, you know, the non-men started the war. And I still think that is a important detail, even if the Incaroi are genocidal. Which clearly they are at this point. But yeah, they were not a truly noble race for sure.
Yeah, but they're definitely the elves of this world, right?
Oh yes, no, I mean they're that counterpart. Absolutely, yeah. Kind of disappointed we don't get to see Bakker's dwarves. Wonder what sort of
for now, who knows?
You know, I can't even imagine they're like cannibals or some shit.
Yeah, what would be the sort of opposite thing to corrupt, to like twist? What would you like? Dwarves are famous for being, I don't know, strong and like strong allies, steadfast in their resolve, and I don't know how you would change that. Maybe even more obsessed about rich. I don't know.
Maybe they don't value life, and they're just like, they're very materialistic, you know, and kind of the way the dwarves are a little bit like greedy, and they get a little caught up in, they like don't even like appreciate, you know, maybe they don't believe in souls, for example, and they're like, you know, whatever, like everyone's just an animal or just an object even.
Yeah. I'll think about it as a thought experiment.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Your listeners, tell us, what do you think Bakker's take on dwarves would be? How fucked up would it be? Probably very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess continue talking about the non-men. What do you think what did you think of the White King? I guess. What do you think was going on with him and the whole thing with Incariol? It wasn't super clear, was it?
No, confession time. Did anyone else think when the seal showed up that it meant like seal the animal, not?
When what showed up?
When the White King showed up, the non-man king, when I think he rose up from some sort of lake or something, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that rose up, at which point he showed up, if I remember correctly, was a seal. And at first I thought it was seal the creature.
I gotcha. Yeah.
I thought it was a metaphor, sort of, but I don't know.
But I think it was like, you know, the stamp seal, based on the description that I went back and read. I was like, this is such a... Why randomly bring seals and does it because it's cold up in the mountain?
That's actually amazing. What an image.
So that whole scene, I imagined this giant black sea.
Like with the cute eyes and the cute noises.
No, just a really messed up seal with like these blood red eyes.
Oh God.
You would be clubbed in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like one of Paramita's questions about like, how would a penguin survive in this world? This seal wouldn't. Yeah, so that was fun. But yeah, I have no idea what's going on with that king or what happened to the cleric. Why did I call him the cleric? Cleric.
I'm trying to remember what they say.
Yeah, I think it like says Eel rises up. Yeah.
right? It's talking about how just kind of reading some of the lines that the Wraith says. They called us false. I loved them so much. They betrayed, you betrayed. I am lost. All the doors are different in the thresholds. They are holding no more.
That was the other reason why I think the Dunian connection exists, because of this interaction. But
the one other quote I want to highlight is damnation, cousin, how could we forget? Which is interesting. The idea of forgetting that they are damned. Why are they damned?
Yeah, why are they damned?
That I definitely stood out to me as, I mean, so clearly the betrayal, right, is the humans, and it pretty increasingly seems like, well, they were betrayed insofar as the humans thought they were, shit for enslaving, and I mean, I guess,
well, it was
right,
different humans though, right? It was not the same humans,
right? I guess that's true. Yeah, I guess it depends on how they viewed the Imwama, right? And we don't have their perspective per se.
Yeah, and they did seem to readily ally with the non-men before, right? In all the histories we read and all the things that Akamian talked about, like he never really mentioned them or anything. Like it seemed nobody gave a shit about them.
Yeah,
right?
I actually feel like I remember them like being kind of almost dismissive of the Imwama, as if they were like a lesser kind of human, which is
fucked up
and sad.
Yeah.
But I mean, the damnation thing I think is the thing that's maybe the most. That's a really interesting notion, right? That they're damned, and it's not only that, but they forgot about it. I guess because they were so long-lived that they forgot they're damned. But why? Why are they damned? I don't know.
Yeah, because we also get information on their sort of theology. I don't know, because it seemed like Akamian talks about how they worship darkness and ignorance, sort of, and like what they don't know.
Right.
But that's not a real religion, is it? Was it just a philosophy, or was he talking about actual their religion? Right? It's not super clear.
Akamian in the first series?
No, in these chapters, he talks about how the non-men, or was it in Carol? Someone talks about how the non-men worship darkness.
Yeah, no, he does. He definitely talks about it.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I think it depends on how how are they like, are they literally like praying to the darkness, right? Yeah. Like what? How does that impact their beliefs, right? And where does philosophy and religion, like, where do those two differentiate, right? Where do they diverge? It's an interesting notion. It certainly paints a very bleak picture of their culture.
I mean, you can interpret it as a very, I don't know, sort of like them, I guess, placing a lot of importance on knowledge and recognizing that, worship starts with the things you don't understand. I don't know, like it could just be a sort of glorified philosophy of, I don't know, some rationalism or something like that.
If they don't understand it, though, or if they worship, it's strictly about worshiping what they don't understand, which is certainly that's how it's laid out. And the gods are real, and the gods are unknowable.
Well, do they know that the gods are real, though?
I mean, I guess that's...
And are they real?
Yeah. I'm pretty convinced at this point. I mean, I don't know that the gods are worth worshiping, but they seem to be pretty real.
But yeah, we don't know if the non-men know about that, right? Like, we don't...
They know
they never mention a non-men god, right?
Like, why, again, this goes back to, like, what do they know of damnation, right? What is their knowledge of damnation and why they're damned and all of that? Like, that's... I don't know. It's hard to parse, honestly.
I mean, I guess the White King might know something about it now, because he's obviously coming from the outside. in some way.
Right. And Silao just
Leaking
lies
into reality. Yeah.
on the depths of hell, which seemingly confirmation that hell is real too, which doesn't surprise me, admittedly, at this point. But that was freaky. That was really freaky. Actually, that was something that I think this actually maybe because it pushed the horror further, I think I like this more than the Mines of Moria, which is heretical, I'm sure, to a lot of fantasy people. But like, and I love Moria, but like, this really just like Bakker was just like, we're just putting it all out there. It's like a full haunt, like truly a haunted mine. It's crazy, more than a mine. I mean, right? A city, a temple, a grave, everything.
And I think there's a short. I mean, you could almost miss it, but it's like it came in thinking about for a second about the people that apparently went with their body to hell and came back to I guess talk about what they saw or something.
Yeah, right. You have those legends, and apparently the captain went to hell.
Yeah. Because
How?
Dude, I don't know.
There was some more references to how old, what's his name, Kosotar? How old he looks. Like I think Mimara's perspective this time, she thinks to herself that he looks as old as Silaujas. And that comment about he would know if this was hell. Did he die a long time ago and recently returned from hell and then decided to start killing Shank for fun?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I hadn't even thought that like maybe he's like undead or he came back from the dead in some way. I had just sort of taken it like he did an Orpheus thing and somehow crossed over into hell. But if he died and came back, right? I mean, how does that happen? We've never heard of someone doing that, have we?
No, I don't think we've ever heard of even in the legends of anyone going to hell and coming back.
Because that's no,
from being actually dead.
In Resegenus, I think also did that.
He ascended to the nail of heaven, I think. I don't think he went to.
Because he was martyred, and then I mean, did he ascend from his martyrdom, or I thought he did the Jesus thing and came back? But maybe
I don't remember.
I could be incorrect about that.
I don't remember.
I just had a ridiculous thought. What if this guy is in Resegenus? That's probably not true.
That would be insane. I mean, I can't even. My jaw would be on the floor in hell. That would be nuts.
I don't know. It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't fit with what we know of Inri Segenus, but also legends are so often wrong.
Yeah.
At the same time, a lot of the legends we've heard seem to be at least kind of true. So, like that's the crazy thing about reading this book is I went in thinking, the first trilogy, I just assumed honestly that the gods were not real, like that or if they were real, they didn't care about anything. And, I was definitely sort of, I think partially because of my own perspective on life and partially because Kellis is started out very like materialistic and rational. And he didn't believe in like gods. And now it's like, it's becoming increasingly clear to me, and I'm sure there's a limit to this, but that like basically all the things that we like have myths about, like those types of things that happen, like people crossing into hell and coming back and the gods themselves and demons and things like that, like it's all real. Like all of those sort of like mythical tropes and stories are real in this universe, this world, right? That it's like it may be a functional like 3-dimensional globe in space that is a void, right, with a bunch of stars and a bunch of planets, but it also has this other this mythic quality to it, in terms of how its metaphysics and physics work.
So do you think that Kalos went to hell and came back?
When did he go to hell? When he died?
Well, because
got-
Akemian asks Mimara that did your father actually go to hell and come back? What are
That's
the
right,
heads? They have the 3 heads that are hanging, the 3 demon heads that are hanging from his belt.
I believe it. I don't doubt it now. That seems, again, I'm on the train now where I'm like, I just believe all the stories. I believe it until it's proven wrong. Which is the opposite of how I normally go, is the point I'm getting at, where I'm increasingly believing that all these legends and myths maybe are skewed, but are like true to some extent.
Interesting.
But Kellis, of all people, doesn't need to go to hell to have those demon heads hanging by his belt or wherever they're hanging, right? Like, I don't know. Do you think it's far fetched that he would have also learned the Scarlet Spire's magic, for instance, and called down demons instead of going to hell himself? I mean, it's possible.
He wouldn't even have to learn it. I mean, he could have one of the Scarlet Spires call the demons,
and then just hang them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that would happen.
That makes
right?
sense. No, that makes sense. It's just, it was a funny image. That's all. Sorry.
I assume maybe he just learned all the magic that all the schools had, because, like, why not?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he?
I just feel like if he went, my only thing is, if he actually, this is just occurring to me now, if he actually went to hell, wouldn't he know that sorcerers are still damned?
Well, I mean, I'm sure he's lied before.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe yeah, that's true. I mean, maybe he's just lying. But then why wouldn't he try to cut everything off if he knows they're all damned? You know, I mean, because he's damned. He's super damned. He's like thrice damned.
Well, maybe he went there and he figured something else.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, that's true. We don't know what his plan is, right? That is unclear. Clearly, he's got more. Yeah, I don't know. I do think it is a very real possibility, though. And I also think, I mean, looking back on it now, didn't he at least, like, spiritually, psychically, however you want to phrase it, go to hell when he was hung up on the circumfix?
Maybe.
Like, that's totally one of the things that happened, right? Is like he looked into hell. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's not like explicit, but like he was having weird visions, and some of those visions were clearly looking into realities not our own. He saw the no God. Yeah. I mean, is the no God in hell? I don't know, but that certainly seems like a possibility.
But I mean, we know that there's a certain level of permeability between, like, sometimes you're not fully within one or the other one, right?
Right, exactly. I don't mean like he like physically walked into hell. I just mean that like he had like he saw into it to some degree, right? In this, strange, exactly like you were saying, like there is that permeability, the veil between worlds is malleable.
Yeah. I don't know.
So are we to take these things at face value then, that where they were is hell, for some definition of hell? And do you then go to some other nicer place if you die that's not hell? Or is it just the place that you go to when you die always? And if that's true, if damnation is that you are consigned to hell when you die, then why are the non-men damned?
They also practice magic, so maybe it's that.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, though.
The Ishroi, though, right? Again, it was theoretically 2 Ishroi talking when they were talking about being damned.
Yeah. But I assume if they don't follow the gods, you would go to hell, I would assume.
That's true, yeah.
Because it seems like the gods, they're split between the ones... no, they were ones that promise you paradise or something if you follow them. So I assume that that's the way to salvation.
There definitely seems to be some sort of heaven, because the judging eye sees some people as, okay, as clean or whatever. But I mean, I do think we should at this point take at face value that there is a hell. Like I just, again, like I feel like a lot of these ideas that in the first trilogy I wasn't convinced were necessarily real, or that they didn't exist in the way that were presented, increasingly to me seem like they are very real. Like the further along we get, like the further we got into the judging eye, it seemed more and more clear that like a lot of these theological beliefs, you know, however they may be represented relative to how they are believed in. Oh, I mean, I think that relatively to the beliefs, they are real and they are as described, you know, by the faiths. I think the question of where the tusk fits into all of this is, you know, debatable, unclear exactly. What, you know, or in Resegenis really is what I mean, the Chronicle of the Tusk. That like I don't know how his interpretation is necessarily, like I don't know if there is a god that is the united gods, but it does seem clear to me that the gods, plural, exist, and hell exists, and you know the beyond, and that heaven of some form, you know, whatever that is. I mean, maybe it's oblivion, who knows, but that there's something other than hell that you can go to, although I guess we don't know that for a fact, but something differentiates the judging eye, the people, you know, that Mimara sees, right? There's some sort of difference in that way.
Well, we get a confirmation, I guess, that it is the judging eye and it is a thing,
Right.
which is actually known, which is interesting.
That was
Didn't
one of
the, oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying that didn't the school that eventually became the consult, didn't they find a way? Didn't they discover that magic users weren't always damned?
Was that a thing? I don't remember that.
Well, the founder said that he found a solution for them to not be damned. I don't know if it was just to be immortal and then you would never die, because I think they said that he lived like more than 100 years or whatever, and he seemed to not age. Maybe that was his solution.
Oh, see, I interpreted. I remember that. How I interpreted that was that because that was what the Inquiry told them about, right? So I just assumed it was like, you know, the genocide plan to block
Could be that
the
one too.
wall to the outside, but I don't know.
Wasn't Mimara in one of the visions or dreams that Akamian had this book? Didn't they ask who Mimara was in one of his dreams?
Yes.
What did everyone think about that?
Remind me what the dream was. Sorry.
It was one of the you know, one of the Seswatha dreams, and someone unexpectedly was like, "Where is Mimara?" or something like that.
Yeah.
There was some question about Mimara.
Hmm.
Is it another Mimara
Oh, yeah.
in the past, or is it maybe something in real life leaking into his dreams? Because we've seen that a bit sometimes too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wondered that.
Did we see that before? Does the real world leak into Akamian's dreams?
At least somewhat. I mean, the dreams can change. Like we know Seswatha is now missing in some of the dreams, which is weird. And
But I think also he said when he does a whole description of like what the dreams are and why he's cataloging them and why they're changing in a substantial way, he says that sometimes mandate schoolmen, like when he dreams of Siswada stubbing his toe, he thinks it's just something he did in real life, and then he went into the dream, because it does happen sometimes.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I was thinking more like the alarm clock. Sometimes, you know, that blends into your dream.
Yeah, when you
I was
wake up,
thinking
yeah.
something like that. Like, was that just what it was? That Mimara, someone in real life asking about Mimara that leaked as a voice in the dream.
Could be. But why would Baker write it then?
Why would Baker write that in? Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's an anomaly, it's interesting. That's why I was curious whether we've seen that happen before. I don't think we have.
no, I don't think so. Not like that. No, I think that is an anomaly.
Yeah.
Assuming that there isn't a Mimara in the past, you know, tied into it, which we haven't learned about. You would think we would know, you know, like there is an Esmenet.
Yeah.
Although not at that time period.
No.
That was even earlier, right?
I found it on page 316
Well,
in
later it is,
my
I think.
my copy. It's a conversation between Somomis with the C and his nephew, quote unquote. He held out the scroll case in hands too small, not too clumsy, saying, "Tell me, Uncle Seswa, tell me, who is Memara?" And Akamian bolted from his blanket with a gasp.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was interesting. So the judging eye, I don't know. I'm sure that there's no question of it at this point, but just for argument's sake, are we again to take at face value that the interpretations are correct, that what she sees as evil is in fact evil and damned, or is it down to this looks ugly, so I'm gonna call it evil, and maybe it's not really.
I mean, is evil and good an intrinsic quality of things? I guess, because that's what it seems, what the judging eye seems to say, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, I think it is in terms of, okay, so I think there are layers to this, right? How we interpret it obviously is different from what is metaphysically true in the book, right? And so talking about the metaphysically true, I think that's how the judging eye, I mean, I guess potentially it's like it's a skewed perspective, right? But theoretically, if the gods give her that and the gods decide what is good and what is bad and who goes to hell, then as far as defining it in universe, right? I mean, it's messed up, right? Like even in universe, I don't want to say someone is, evil just for doing magic, right? But they are, I think, clearly damned at this point, unless the judging eye is just wrong and is some sort of, skewed possession or something. I don't even know what it would be, but some
You
sort
could
of
be seeing things like maybe like what Yatver sees or something, right?
right.
But I mean, if doing magic makes you damned in this world, then by definition, I would say that's evil. Like we're applying our own definition of evil, but in this universe, then that becomes the definition of evil, and the definition of good is whatever I guess the gods see as good.
But with God,
if you're following the morality of the gods, right? If you believe that is the way, because ultimately these are still, I think, arguably like they're words, right? And so they have the meaning that you give them. But I mean, in the most like literal sort of like evil being it is what gets you damned to hell sort of, theological point of view. I think that seems to be the case, and that, doing magic, therefore sorcery, is evil.
Yeah. Or it could be very just like literally intrinsic part of, it's not even what the gods see, it's just part of the fabric of reality.
Yeah,
So the gods didn't make things? I mean, how does, I guess, I just don't know the relation.
Well, we have never heard of a creation myth, have we?
That's true. That's very true.
Can you have damnation without someone to do the damning? Like, who's the decision maker in all of this?
Right. It's that's a good point. Right. Like, who decides? I mean, I guess that's the what Dan's saying, right? Is that it's like, just like baked into the universal metaphysics. It's just.
I mean, if you take an approach like a fully materialistic, rationalistic approach, you can just say, well, everything's relative. There's no absolute evil or good, right?
Because I mean, if you think about it, right, it's like I've been like trying to think of this from like sort of a Christian, because clearly like Inrithism is like viewed in like is sort of the Christian equivalent, the Catholic equivalent, really. But if that's the way, like theoretically, just going off the idea that like it's intrinsic to the universe, that's more like what like ancient Greek, for example, right, which is another influence, like how their view of the afterlife worked, that people just like went to places based on like deeds done or things like that, right? That it was just like baked in. The gods didn't, like Zeus wasn't like, you're going, to this part of Hades, right? You just went to that part of Hades. And so I guess theoretically, yeah, maybe it's the same thing, which is so interesting. Yeah, that I hadn't even considered that. I had just associated the gods with deciding who goes to hell, but maybe the gods don't decide who goes to hell.
I mean, even if they do, I mean, we don't know how much agency gods have. But if the gods have the power of deciding who goes to hell or goes to heaven, does that make them the deciders of good and evil, or they're just passive? Like, I mean, we don't say that the judges in our world, they don't judge good and evil. They're just, people deciding things based on culture and other things. But if the gods do it, suddenly that becomes good and evil, because I guess if you have absolute power to decide these things, maybe that's, I don't know. It's a good philosophical question. What's the origin of morality, right? Where does it come? Where does your morality come from?
Right. And even then, I mean, I feel like just fundamentally as a human, in the way, again, that you define what words mean, you, and like personally, subjectively define what your morality is. But I guess in like a literal, like cosmological sense, it's possible in this universe that it's just innate. The morality is built in, right? And is that even morality at that point? I mean, I almost feel like morality has to be subjective. I guess that's just my understanding of the universe.
True. Do you think the judging eye has other powers? Because it seems to have, like, Mimara seemed to do something special with the White King, right? Because I think a Kamian or someone says that you cannot just chase it away with a Kore normally, because they should have all died.
Yeah, what did she do with that? And why is she not turning to salt? That's the thing I don't understand. I do not get how she is now doing magic actively and not turning to salt.
She's not actively doing it. She's sort of holding the magic that a Kamian did.
That to me feels like that's just doing magic.
But she didn't say the things that do magic, I guess. I don't know.
So you have to literally speak the words? Okay.
It's hard to say, because it's like there must be something which suddenly triggers that you're vulnerable to the Kore.
Right.
But what is it? Is it like an understanding? Is it a mentality thing? How does it? Yeah, I don't know how it works. But.
When he was teaching Kellis he said you can't do the magic yet, as long as I think he didn't utter a cant. He's fine. He doesn't have the mark on him, and so is invulnerable to the Korai. Is that what? I guess Mimara hasn't uttered a cant yet.
Yeah, that has to be it. It has to be you literally have to speak yourself into damnation.
Interesting though. It's like a switch, how suddenly switch flips and you're on the other side, I guess. I don't know.
That is interesting.
What do you guys think of what Mimara saw when she inspected the Korai with the judging eye?
It's a tear of God, right? I don't know what that means. Like, obviously the metaphor is clear, but like what does that literally, like, clearly it has some literal metaphysical, like, is it the tear of one of the gods? Like, what the hell are the Korai? I think
they were created, right?
They were like made, and
yeah.
They were made by sorcerers. So do you think Mimara's heading towards gaining knowledge of that sorcery that she can now make or destroy Korai?
Wait, yeah. How the hell? So if they were made by sorcerers, how are they not? I don't understand. I mean, I guess maybe we'll find out. Because I don't know how that works. If they're like magic, but they're like counter magic. But if they were made by magic people, then
maybe they're more like alchemists or something, just working materials, maybe.
Right.
Because they're also inscribed, right? I don't know if the inscriptions actually do the magic, or is something else making them the way they are.
Yeah.
But there was a school that was dedicated to, I guess, anti-magic.
Right.
How this works, I have no idea. Is anti-magic magic? I don't know. Does it seem like it? But
And how did they not get sucked into the Korai? But I mean, we have seen are the I forget the name of the sorcerers in the Fanim sorcerers, but are they susceptible to
Sauron?
Korai?
It is.
Which is Sauron? Yeah.
Kizarim, yeah. They are susceptible to Korai, right? Even though they
Yes.
don't bear the mark.
Correct.
Yes.
Which I guess means that we are wrong about the incantation. Why do I keep wanting to say incantation? The cants are what give you the mark, and the mark is what makes you susceptible to the Korai. They
So-
don't bear the mark, right?
Yeah, so it's got to be. It's not the act of like. It's the actual act of creation, I guess. You know, maybe it's the idea that like you are playing God, right? That you are doing what only the gods are supposed to do, and like creating and manipulating reality in that. I mean, it's got to be the creation itself, right? That like you are, whether it's through the cants or whatever the Sisharim do, they.
Purposes are damned, do you think? If they don't have the mark.
I guess that's an interesting question, right? Because the fact that Korai work on them doesn't necessarily mean they're damned.
Maybe it's a different way of manipulating reality, and that's why we don't have the mark. It's not. I don't know, but there must be something definitely different, right? Okay, well.
Yeah, it's all very interesting. I'm very curious to see where the whole thing with Mimara and the Korai goes. It is, and I also was really interested in the descriptions of Korai. I know there were brief references to it in the previous books, but how they are described now, it almost feels like, I mean, I'm doing my own interpretation of it, but it's also like they're bending reality, similar to what sorcery apparently does, because of how, for at least one philosophical interpretation of sorcery, they're rewriting or bending reality. And the Korai are also seem to be doing something like that. They are, so the topoi, they are gateways into hell, right? So are the Korai similarly gateways into heaven somehow because of what Mimara sees when she looks into them? The light, and I forget what else she sees when she sees that her judging eye passes right through it, and then she sees a bunch of light, right? Does she see anything else?
I think that's what she sees, yeah.
So is she then, yeah, is she then looking into heaven? Are the Korai basically tiny gateways into heaven, which
I don't know. I mean, are the Korai, like, normal people looking at them, I was wondering, do they look like black hole or something? Because that's what it seemed from the description that I didn't, notice before. But it seemed like it.
do normal people understand Korai for what they are? Like, do they know them? Do they feel them, or do they just look at them? Because
Because Soma said, like, she looked like he was, like, shrouded or something while she was looking at it. And when she put it back, she's like, oh, that's much better. Right?
yeah, that was interesting. I thought that was very interesting because I didn't know that Korai looked any different to normal people, like to non-sorcerers, but apparently it does. I thought when they were being apprehensive that they felt like they could feel it, feel the Korai like a Kamian can, that they were just projecting their fear, but maybe they can actually feel it.
Not sure.
Yeah.
I have no thoughts. I don't know. It's all a big mystery.
So, do you guys know? Sorry, I was about to change the subject. I don't know why, but yeah,
you can. I don't have. Yeah, I don't have any other Korai thoughts.
So the cleric, when he declares that he's been dreaming that he is a god, what was that about?
I think that was the Wraith talking through cleric, but
Oh yeah, okay.
I wasn't sure if we were meant to read that kind of at face value, like he has a god complex, like Ellis, or shit. It just occurred to me. I mean, if Kellis has any truth to what he believes in, then was this sort of a similar situation? Is that he connected with something that made him think he was divine?
Or is he I'm just going crazy with all my ridiculous theories today. Is he the no god summoned and then sent back, and now he's saying that like when he died, why did I think that? But it had no god vibes. The whole speaking through 1,000 shrank voices and so on.
Yeah.
It was small letters instead of capitals, but otherwise it could have been the no god.
No, I agree. I mean, I definitely think you're right to pick up on that. I don't know that he is the no god, but I think this gives us a clue to the no god's nature, that clearly the no god is a wraith of some kind. Which I mean adds up, right? We know he exists in this sarcophagus. Sarcophagus it's a coffin, right? It holds a dead body. So I think he's potentially, I mean, maybe he is a non-man or something else that died, that was extremely powerful, that died, and in dying became more.
Maybe.
But I had the same thought as you though, Varsha, definitely. That I think you're spot on. That I mean, I don't think he is the no god, the Wraith King, but I do think that is a major clue to what the no god is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which does make you kind of wonder too, if, I mean, I guess the no god possesses the strong to speak through them, but if to summon the no god, he/it needs an avatar of some sort in the same way that the Wraith King did. And also, I wonder too, like, it seems like he needed a non-man body, not just like any human, although he did speak through Akamian and who was the other guy he spoke through who was unconscious?
Popwas? What's his name?
It was the Galioth guy, right?
Yeah. It was one other guy, anyways.
One of the other guys, right? A human is the point, right? I mean, so far as we know, human.
Maybe he's just one of the most powerful guy.
Oh, that's true, right?
Possessed.
Maybe he can't do magic on his own per se, and
I don't know.
Yeah.
Lots of questions.
All good questions.
Yeah. Talking about the skin eaters, what do you guys think of losing 80% of them within the first part of adventure?
Not gonna lie, not surprised. I expected that. As soon as they went into Syllogis, like, these guys are toast.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm actually shocked we didn't lose more named characters.
Fair enough.
The only one I'm interested in is the captain. Just tell me what's going on with him and his agelessness.
The captain is creepy as fuck. He's like one of the characters, like one of the characters, every time I read it, it's like, it gives me shivers. It gives me that sort of feeling of possible violence at any point. Like, he might just stab you for no reason without even changing his facial, like his emotions or anything, and not even think about it.
I feel like it's not for no reason. He has his reason. It's just a really depraved reason, right? Like, you're not being tough enough. You start crying, and so he like will kill you or something.
Yeah. But it's very fickle when he actually like snaps and kills you, and when he doesn't, right? Or it's like, oh, when you say something, he might take offense to that or decide to kill you or not. Seems very because.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head with that one, because I don't know, there was something about him that I found vaguely terrifying, and I think this is what it is. What you just said, Dan, that he could kill you, no questions asked. And also, I guess the sort of cult around him. Like it's not a company of soldiers or whatever. It's a cult. Almost. I love. It's really chilling when Akamian has the realization that he's with after 20 years with fanatics all over again. Which again, we talked about parallels between Sorville and Akamian last time. Sorville also, he knows that he's in the company of fanatics, but it's interesting.
It just hit me that what I've been hearing, the voice I've been hearing, and now the face I'm picturing when I imagine Sarl and his relationship with the captain is. Have you guys seen the Guardians of the Galaxy movies?
Yes.
The first mate on Yondu's ship, who's like always talking about, you got to listen to the captain and shit. It's James Gunn's brother, Sean Gunn. That is who I now imagine as Sarl, and that I've been hearing his voice in my head this entire time, and now I don't know why it didn't click for me sooner, but that's literally that's just him.
Oh, really? In my mind now, he looks like you from what you said last time.
It's hilarious. I love it. He's an old man too. I just silvered my hair a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I'm actually really old. Maybe I'm like the captain that way. You don't even know.
Carl D'Albert, the non-man.
Yeah.
Are you secretly 1,000 years old, God?
I'm not telling. Neither
not
confirm
crazy,
nor deny.
so.
That's true. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I think we already did a little bit, but this take on immortality, what do you guys make of it? It is very interesting. Do you think? Well, I have two questions. One, what do you guys think about it, just generally? And do you think that this is Baker's position, that this is what immortality does to you, or is he just exploring one thing that might happen?
I would say that I don't get the sense that Baker is trying to be like, this is 100% universally what immortality would be. Just because, like, I don't get the sense that everything he's arguing in these books is like necessarily his position on any given topic, But I agree. I think it's interesting. Yeah.
Like, I mean, we have some not quite immortal, but I guess much longer lived races in, for instance, Malazan Book of the Fallen or in Wars of Light and Shadow. And they have it's not quite as cynical a take. They do talk about the weight and what the burden of immortality does to you, but this feels like all over in the other direction, that this, like,
it's
just
the
a
memory,
very cynical take on
right? It's the
immortality.
memory loss that's the big difference. I think is that they can't remember things. They lose. They're like, yeah, it is cynical about the idea that, like, I mean, I don't even know if cynical is the right word. I mean, it's certainly like depressing. It's bleak. It's yeah. I mean, yeah, the idea that you'd live so long you would forget, the people you love, people you knew a long time ago, that your memory is so fragile.
So the reason I say cynical is because of the thing that Akaman says. I don't know if, yeah, I think they do this. They hurt people or do horrible things just to feel something.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, that is kind of a cynical view, right? That you would stop feeling. I don't know if is that just the non-men or is that immortality in general, right? Because they seem to already have their own emotional makeup that is alien. They don't function like humans do. They don't see proteins, for example, right? Which is a detail I adore. I think that is just so, it tells you so much about them.
Yeah.
I like that. Another thing that was somewhat surprising to me about the non-men was, for some reason, and I surprised myself with, like, the assumption I had to rework with the way Clark was described. I think in general, maybe what we found out from the appendices, I imagined him as a frail person who might, like, I don't know, crack easily. Maybe that's just how I think about like long-lived people in general. I don't know. But then when he comes out as this like image of power and this, I don't know, almost like a force of nature when he's dealing with all the bashrag and whatnot, I had to like really rework the image of him I had in my head.
What a cinematic image of him riding the Boshrog down with his like sword in its eye, one of its eyes or something. So cool, so badass. I'm curious,
Just
what are your thoughts on the non-men? Steve?
whose fault? Yeah.
I have to be careful. I think they're. I love the exploration of immortality, like we were talking about what would immortality really be like, and plus they've lost their families. They're by themselves. They don't really have anyone else, and through the years they've kind of gone their separate ways, or they've even killed each other to spare them from this like curse of immortality. I think they view it more as a curse than they do a blessing. But I think it's after a few hundred years, would you go mad after a few hundred years of the people that you meet just die, and you go through time, and I think over the course you only have so much room to make new memories and to remember things, and after a few hundred years, won't you kind of, I don't know, anyone would really be able to handle that after
It definitely would warp your
some time.
psychology.
Yeah.
I mean, people would function in a way that they do not as we know them, right? I don't think it would lead to people becoming like sadists to feel things. And again, I don't know that the Baker is necessarily saying that human beings would. Like that just doesn't feel like, at least with how human brains work, like I just don't think that is logical. But again, non-men are different.
Well, you have no anchor. You have nothing to really hold on to. You're just going to live forever. So I think do we need to feel things? Would we seek out things just to feel, just to, feel connected somehow to life? I mean, I don't know. I think we would eventually go crazy, just living forever.
I think the ennui is a real concern, right? And that's like a trope at this point with immortal races, right? It's the same thing you see in Lazen, and that they get really depressed, about living so long. And I definitely think that is you would feel that how meaningless, it would be easy to get really nihilistic and depressed, and to fall into that trap, and then from that then feel like you need to do fucked up things to like feel. I don't know that it would go so far as like the sadism you see with the non-men here, just because I think human brains, at least, you would still, like, it would warp your brain, but a lot of your triggers would still work the same way. Like the reason you would get depressed is because your brain is not like meant to comprehend life on that scale, and to process people coming and going, eternally from you. And you probably would start to forget things. I do think that's an interesting idea, right? That like people already forget, loved ones' faces after a long period of time, or like misremember them. Our own memories are so flawed and fragile that I can't even imagine what thousands of years would do to somebody. You would definitely have, who knows? I think I don't know that you would go completely like, I don't know that you'd forget your mother's name, right? Because like assuming your mom's name in the first place, but like that's like I feel like we hold on to certain core memories, and assuming that we don't have like neurological degeneration, with immortality, and we literally go senile, I think we would still remember certain things, but it would be strange.
Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not like you become immortal from this like glorious event. It's not like this it was a tragic, traumatic thing that happened, and so it wasn't. It was almost like the reason you are immortal isn't a good reason. well, over the course of time, I guess at first they kind of viewed it differently when it first happened, but obviously the events following weren't so pleasant. So that probably sticks with you too. Of
That would traumatize.
It's a constant reminder of your immortality is a constant reminder of what happened.
I can't believe that they haven't just like started killing themselves left and right.
I
Sure,
think
some have.
I think some have, right? I think that mentions that some have killed themselves or their loved ones just to spare them.
Plus, imagine like there's nothing for them to hope for, right? There's nothing like there's never gonna have their civilization is gone forever. There's only ever gonna be less of them. There's only decline, like right? They're exiled from society because humans don't really, you know, they're evil for humans, I guess, and they view them as children as nothing.
Right.
So like they live in isolation, I would assume most of them. And their memories, like if you think about the memories we remember the strongest memories. Like you don't remember most of the time, like going to school every single day that you've gone for 500 days. You remember like the strong core memories. And as more time passes, you probably only remember only the strongest one keep staying there. And trauma is some of the strongest memories. So you can imagine them just like everything falling off until just the trauma remains.
Right.
And it just accumulates in time. I don't know.
I mean, I think again, this is different talking about non-men because clearly their brains function differently. But I think you would still hold on to certain, like we do hold on to certain positive memory. Like I think it's a survival mechanism, and like our brains block trauma sometimes. You know, if it's bad enough.
Yeah.
I don't know if non-men brains do that. That is unclear. Certainly, they forget things. Man, yeah, I don't know. They're really cool though.
It's also the world they live in too. They really don't have the luxury of just like relaxing or it's a constant struggle to survive anyway. So they really don't have a comfortable life. It's a constant, just constant fight. There's always something to deal with. So it's not exactly the world you would want to be immortal in either.
Right. I do feel like if I was a non-man, I would 100%. Just given how they like view humans, I would like try to establish myself as like a god king or something, like seeking out that like any sort of pleasure, right? And inevitably it would get me killed. Like I feel pretty confident that like, I mean, I would function differently just on a fundamental level, but that I would just not be satisfied just like wandering the woods, you know? I'd be like, all right, well, I'm going to pursue what pleasures I can.
Maybe that's what they did at the beginning.
It's true, right? And that's what led to a bunch of them getting fucking massacred by humans.
And are they waiting for the next apocalypse too? Are they anticipating that day will come? Or is it just a matter of time before? Am I just going to suffer until the next apocalypse comes? And when will that even be?
Right?
Will they even remember?
Remember the last apocalypse, or may not remember that they are expecting another.
All the ones that are alive definitely remember it because they must have been alive at the time of the apocalypse, right?
Right. I mean, I guess what I mean more is, do they even remember that they should potentially expect another? I mean, for all they know, the console could also be gone or just be forgotten because they don't see it long enough that they're like, who cares? You know, like I'm busy being really sad and sadistic out in the middle of nowhere somewhere.
I don't know if I would describe it as sadistic, but
they are explicitly described as sadistic, as seeking out pain to feel pleasure, which is literally the definition of sadism. I mean, you can disagree with what I think it's Acamian describes them as that, right? Like I think you could reasonably say that Acamian is wrong, or that maybe he has a very limited view of non-men, but that description of non-men is literally sadism.
I mean, in the prologue, he has a cloak of human faces. So it's like,
I thought that dude was
hobby, but it's not.
I thought that guy. I did go in. I mean, I didn't think the non-men were going to be like good guys, but I did not think that guy was just going to be like, oh yeah, that's how the non-men are like. Like I thought, oh, this is like a freak non-men bad guy. Nope, that's just their deal. Apparently, they're just like, we make cloaks of human faces. We don't give a shit. Like, crazy.
Maybe they were already dead and he just took them from dead people.
Yeah, don't
I
mind.
mean, that's possible. It's still fucked
I
up.
don't know.
He's just recycling.
Exactly. Yeah. Shouldn't leave it out to waste, right? And I guess it does make you think, right? We do that with animals, so why not do it with humans?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we'll talk about this again in the future.
I have a
Maybe
feeling we
I'll
will
think
too.
of something else in the future.
I love it.
Yeah. Who do you think is Incario? Because Ikemian says it's like I haven't heard of anyone that name. He seems like very old, very powerful, right? And do you have any theories or nothing?
I mean, I just feel like I was gonna ask Varsha this because I'm really not sure. My only thought is that I feel like he's probably someone we know just because that's how books work. But I guess it's possible that he's some like it would be interesting thematically if he's like some forgotten person who was hugely impactful, right? Because like that's a real thing that happens in history is that like we forget people who were like hugely important, often from, a given minority group in a civilization, right? Who were like underwritten, it happens with women all the time historically. So I think that could be interesting if he's like sort of a forgotten legend, maybe legend isn't the right word, but like a really important person who was forgotten. But I don't know. Again, just because this is a story, I feel like he's probably someone we know. And I don't remember there's so much to like absorb. I don't remember who we know as dead or not, and if that even matters, right? Because they could theoretically be alive. What are your thoughts, Varsha?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm finding it. I want to know who he is, but I'm having difficulty mapping it back to anything we know so far about the history of the first apocalypse. And honestly, I don't know that I care. I just want to know, like, I feel like it's more about what role he played in the first apocalypse that might be important now. And that reveal might be interesting as opposed to, this is his name and this was someone we met before. I think he may be more interesting. The reveal may be more interesting as a role rather than a specific individual that we have met before or not met, but like that we have heard of before. But yeah, it is like the aura of mystery around the two biggest threads that I'm super interested in. Well, I suppose three are the in Cariol, who the heck is he, and why is he lying about his name? And
Is he lying?
Mimara. I mean, Akamian says he hasn't heard about him, so either he's lying about his name or he's really someone that nobody's ever heard of and is super powerful, which seems less likely, no?
Well, what if he has like multiple names, or that's a title or something? Like I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of reasons why he could feel like he is Incario, or maybe he just misremembers, right? Like I guess the only reason I'm pushing back at all is because I feel like he doesn't seem like the type of person who would lie.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if anything, he's just like misremembering.
Makes sense. Yeah. Like, whatever reason we don't know his name, what his name is, or whether it's his true name. And then Mimara with the judging eye. By the way, apparently it leads to torment, having the judging eye. Why is that? And what can she do with the core eye? That I'm supremely interested in. I can't remember what other series it reminds me of, but there was some other series where someone was, well, it's probably a common trope, is discovering an old and forgotten magic. And that's super interesting. So it seems like this one, she's with what we know about the fact that Korai were created by sorcerers and that Mimara's really wearing it and is trying to figure out how it works. I don't know. It seems so familiar. Like, it seems like it feels like I've read the exact same thing where there's a female sorceress who figures something out by Is it from Wheel of Time? No, I don't think that's
Yes,
what I'm
that happens
thinking.
in Wheel of Time.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know it happens in Wheel of Time, but I don't know if that's what I'm thinking of in but maybe
I'm sure it happens in a bunch of.
It
Yeah.
does. That is I think a not uncommon trope. It's a trope I love. Rediscovering lost magic.
Yeah,
My
it
book.
feels very similar, like the artifact that she's examining to then go make more like it. I'm like, it's reminding me of, and it was an artifact. That's why it's not Wheel of Time that it's reminding me of. But
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, I'll try and figure that out if I can. And then of course, what the heck is up with the White Luck Warrior?
Yeah, that is shit that I'm so confused by. I really thought there was going to be some sort of identity reveal, and I'm increasingly unclear if what happened, the weird sex magic, was like literal, or like was that literally him? Is he dead now and gonna possess him? I'm so unclear on what the deal is with the White Luck Warrior. It's the name of the next book, so I'm sure we'll get answers.
Yeah. The Sorville being blessed by the Yatverian, not priest, but worshipper of Yatver. Do you think that means something in terms of in the White Luck department?
I don't know. I was really leaning towards that for a long time, and then we got the weird sex magic scene, and then I was like, I guess that's the White Luck Warrior. I don't know who that. It's just a guy, It's not Sorwheel, like unless there's some weird time travel shenanigans going on,
Yeah, because that's the final non-judging eye scene we got here in this book. So
I really thought we were gonna find out at the end of the book what the hell was going on with Sorwheel there, and we did not. That's what I meant. Is like it felt like it kind of just ended, like his story. Like nothing really happened at the it's like you were blessed, and it was like okay, I could have told you that. Like he had the weird eye shit. Yeah.
I mean, he's a believer king now, right? Kellos made him a believer king.
Right.
Is he really, or does he still have some of his?
Well,
not cynicism? What's the word I'm looking for?
Skepticism?
Yes, thank you. That.
You think Kellos wouldn't notice that?
I mean, he could choose to ignore it. We know he has an ulterior motive with Sorville, so
he would be pressuring him by declaring him believer king and sort of I could see Kellos doing that.
Yeah, I think that is I don't know. I'm not. I clearly believes more than he did. I don't know that I'm convinced that he's he's not a zealot. But and he has the weird yachtwear shit going on too, like that he's starting to contend with. So I don't know there. I'm very curious to see where Sorwheel goes, and very worried for him, my sweet boy. He's gonna commit some atrocity or something horrible before this is over, like betray the freaking Zoom prince or something like that.
I can see that happening.
In fact, that's the shot I'm going to take right now. Is I think he's for sure going to betray the Zoomy prince. At first, I was worried it was going to be the reverse, and he was going to get betrayed. But no, I'm pretty confident Sorwheel is going to throw that guy under the bus at some point.
And it's not going to be good for his psyche, probably.
No, he's definitely going to feel bad about it. He has a conscience. He is not like Kellis.
Look, I made the judging. I made a ridiculous drawing. I'm fidgeting with my pen for some reason, but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to look forward to. Was this book supposed to be like one? Was this and the next book, for instance, supposed to be one book that he just split in two or something? I do agree the ending feels a bit abrupt, but I
think the last two were supposed to be one.
Oh, okay.
Really? I thought the middle two.
What was the middle two?
I don't remember. I just thought it was that. I couldn't believe it was the last two. But also I can believe him writing all four sort of in a line and then just saying, well, I need to cut it at some point.
Chop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Did he write them all before he published them? He did, right? Maybe.
I don't think so,
remember.
because their dates are more spaced out.
Like he did have he knew the plot. That's for sure. He knew a plot of everything. Because you couldn't put things in the previous books without. Maybe not everything was planned out, but a lot of it was definitely, because there's a lot of references and things that come up after. Or maybe he's a genius at retconning or something, or connecting threads.
Could
Yeah.
be.
What do we think of Kelmomus and Esmenet?
I feel like not a lot changed, and progressed in that interlude. It just kind of felt like, salt on the wound, just as, furthering that, like, Kelmomus has his mother under his thumb and he sucks. And we now know that he views himself as, the emperor in all but name.
Yeah, he seems to also be, I don't know, plotting something with Mayfinet from those last lines.
Yeah, it seems like he wants to get rid of Mayfinet, which is pretty,
What is he suggesting to Esmenet? That Mayfinet was looking at her, like leering at her, or that he was observing her the way Kellis does, like the Dunian observation?
I think he's saying that he's also manipulating her, and he will want to take power or something.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. He's not suggesting something shady.
I don't think so, but I mean, it's always possible in this world.
He's half Dunyan, so.
Yeah, he would know. I mean, not about, like, he's clearly lying about Mayfinet, but, or is he?
Is he? Do you think that's above Dunyan?
To lie?
Well, to plot or kill his brother's wife or something for any possible reason.
No, I don't think it's above him at all. I'm just wondering whether he's twisting reality or making things up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, so on to the next book. Do we have any other things that we have to discuss? Oh, yeah.
We have to have quotes.
I forgot to bring my book down, so I don't have any today. But Steve will cover us.
Let's see. Page 301. Questions always came too late. Events had to be pushed. Events had to be pushed past the point of denial. Only then could the pain of asking begin.
I like that.
Nice.
There were a couple of good epigraphs too, but I don't remember.
We really had to do an epigraph episode.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
If the mutable appears recast, then you yourself have been transformed. That's a great one.
True.
I dreamed that
There
I
was one I
was
thought was pretty smart, but I don't remember what it was in these chapters.
So the cleric had some good ones. You must understand, for my kind, holiness begins where comprehension ends. Ignorance takes us out. It marks our limits, draws the line between us and what transcends. For us, the true God is the unknown God, the God that outruns our verbal words, our flattering thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that section.
I remember asking a wise man once, though whether it was last year or 1,000 years ago, I cannot tell. I asked him, why do men fear the dark? I could tell he thought the question wise, though I felt no wisdom in asking it, because darkness, he told me, is ignorance made visible. And do men despise ignorance? I asked. No, he said. They prize it above all things, but only so long as it remains invisible.
Yeah, I like that one.
That is a good one.
I agree. Oh, I saw something here that reminded me. Their star is blue, apparently, not yellow like our sun. Because,
But what?
or do they mean the sky? Because I
Oh, I
think
thought it was the sky.
because he calls it a blue star.
No,
So,
he's talking about that's the nail of heaven. I think is they're describing the nail of heaven.
oh,
The nail of heaven is a blue star, I believe.
interesting. So they don't mean the star that shines light on their world. They mean the nail of
No,
heaven.
when they describe the sun, I'm pretty sure it's yellow.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, it could also be an assumption just because we assume it's yellow.
That's true. I definitely could.
Yeah.
I could totally.
That makes me think probably a lot of the reason. No, but I can see some of the reason why there's not as many detailed descriptions of things in this first series is that a lot of the stuff is sort of real. Like we can draw parallels to things in our history, so it's very easy to imagine. While a lot of the stuff in this next trilogy, quadrilogy or whatever, is new, where there's no real equivalent in real life.
Hmm.
So it makes a lot more sense to describe it, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I did get very. I mean, I think I've said this before. I get very Egyptian vibes from the non-men. Maybe it's just because they like write and like basically it's like hieroglyphs on the wall. You know, the images they describe. But I also may be projecting there. I don't know if that's intentional or not. Oh no, and then they also have like ziggurats, don't they?
So yeah, sort of.
Someone has ziggurats. Who has ziggurats? Is that not the non-men?
Were they just human constructions? I thought they were, but I could
Are
be wrong.
they?
No, I like swear it's like one of the magical, like the fantasy thing.
Yeah, I think someone has ziggurats. Wasn't the console? Was it?
Could be the console. Yeah.
Let me see if I can find.
What about the ones that
Don't
were?
Google.
Don't-
Don't.
don't-
I'm not gonna
don't-
do it. You're right. You're right. You're right.
I get
I went
spoiled.
off. I almost was. Yeah.
I'll look it up. Hold on.
What about the ones that they encountered like during the first Holy Wars march? Did we get the impression that those were not built by humans?
No, that's true. I do think the ones that were in fantasy Egypt were built by humans.
Mhm.
What did she get?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, those are ziggurats. There
Yeah,
were
there's-
other ziggurats though.
I thought those were pyramids, but I don't know.
Ziggurats. I mean, ziggurats are a kind of pyramid.
Yeah, I guess. I imagine them more like as like I don't know, high Egypt, like Numidian sort of pyramids.
Right. Yeah.
Like smaller, more numerous pyramids sort of thing. But I don't remember exactly.
Oh, little detail I really liked is that there's all this talk of, you know, they're walking the boundary to hell and blah, blah, blah. And the three-faced wolves, clear, you know, Cerberus homage. The way he describes it
Even
really interesting,
funny.
right? That it's like different emotions, you know, very cool. I actually think you could probably talk about that for a while, but as just a little detail, I thought that was cool.
I did not notice it, but it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it also says like that when it's growing, like it's like smaller and like more adult. I think it's also like there's a couple of things going on there.
Definitely.
I also loved in the descriptions of the non-men architecture, like with the wolf statue, for instance, that it showed animals in different, like sort of overlaid on top of each other, and it was the same creature in different poses. The passing of time is being documented here. I liked how that was described. I do not have my book handy, so I can't find the quote, but I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah.
Was it like non-men sort of cubism? I guess because I imagine like Picasso's paintings where everything is like free overlapping portraits or something like that in motion.
Yeah. The way things were described, it reminded me a lot of the architecture in Hindu temples. There's a lot of carvings on the walls with like dancers and not the overlaying. I don't think that's a thing in the temples, but yeah, there's a lot of like wall carvings. I don't know other things that have similar carvings, but it reminded me of temples.
Very intricate reliefs, and everything covered in these reliefs paintings.
Yeah.
Well, not paintings in this case, but
Yeah. They usually depict like demon like creatures and or like rakshasas or devatas or like the god equivalent. So but yeah, the detail
I can see
is
that.
interesting. So
Nice.
is that everything? Cool. So next no, we are going to be taking a break for next week. We will meet back 2 weeks from now, starting with the White Luck Warrior. We will be discussing chapters 1 through 3 when we meet back again. Until then, Steve, where can people find you?
You can find me on pagestream.com. Come and say hello and talk this series with us. We're we're a friendly bunch.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah,
Some of us are.
that's true.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be friendly if you say something which I don't agree with.
You
I'm
will
just mean.
excoriate.
Very,
You can't
I'm-
confirm.
yeah,
I'm the mean disruptor, so I'm not friendly at all. Nah, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Zach.
And you can find me also at Page Chewing or a lot of social media at Carl D. Albert.
Cool. And you can find me at my YouTube channel, Reading by the Rainy Mountain, on Speculative Speculations, the podcast, and a few others that you can find on the About page of the channel and on Page Chewing, where I haunt the forums all the time. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.